and gentlemen, so we beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 in a what I thought was a okay, good performance. It was a good performance. I'll call it a good performance. It's a weird performance. I'll say that it's a weird performance. Maybe not. It is definitely a good performance, but it's definitely a weird performance. Like, we went into this game, we looked very, very good. Like, I would say the first half, the first 10 minutes of the first half, the first 10 minutes of the second half, and the last 10 minutes of the game, we looked rather bad. So, like, for the first, we looked bad. Poor, let's call it poor. We looked poor for 30 minutes out of 90, which, you know, against a team like Atletico Madrid usually gets you punished. It didn't get us punished today because in the other 60 minutes we looked that strong. And Atletico Madrid, obviously known for being such a very strong defensive team, we made short work of them. The thing that I like the most as well, if you're watching, I'll be uploading that later. But if you're watching my watch along to the game, I mentioned as well that we scored 3 goals and Müller or Lewandowski are 2 main contributors to goals haven't been involved, and then Müller assists Coman for the 4th goal. I'm like, all right, come on, bro. Literally, I said that, and 30 seconds later he assists Coman. I'm like, come on, man. At least I got my point out before he scored, but before Coman scored, so I'm okay. But it says a lot about our team. That Coman, who is obviously not known for scoring, honestly, for scoring many goals or assisting that much, honestly, he's a very frustrating player to watch. He's a player that will, beat his man. I always say this. I'll say it again because I want to get my point across. But Coman is a player that does everything right, except the final ball. He'll beat 10 players with pace or with trickery, with pace or skills. Easy for him to beat 10 players. But then when it comes to passing it or shooting it, he doesn't. And today was different. Today was like, all right, you know what, fam? I'm shooting it. I'm passing it. It's like, all right, bruv. So from my perspective, I'm like, okay, good one, Coman. I mean, that says a lot. We all thought after his Champions League goal, he would kick on. He really, he won as a Champions League. I think we all thought that would help him boost his confidence. For him to kick on. Didn't really happen so far, but I mean, this game has been absolutely fantastic, and he really does show up in the big games. In the big games, you look at his performances in the big games, he always looks very, very threatening, and that really tells you a lot that he is it tells you that he's a talented player against these tough opponents. He is class. And that's what we have to take into consideration. Atletico Madrid, I can't really say much about them because I felt like every time they had an attacking phase, Sula or Alaba stopped him. Hernandez was a monster, but I think Sula was the big one. Yeah, the big one, eh? Yeah, well, I wonder why. Because he's probably because he's big. But you look at it, and I feel like Sula bullied them. You look at Alaba and Lucas Hernandez, and you're like, oh, right, they were great. But I feel like Sula bullied them. He bullied them. Every time they won the ball, he was like, get out of here. And I just, poof, get out of there. He's like, nah, fam. Come close and I'll show you. That was him. I've got this strength and I got this speed. Come close and I'll show you, fam. So just from that perspective, I was like, all right, Sula, absolute monster. And I feel like him bullying them kind of made them know, damn, there's no point. there is no point, all right? Atletico Madrid, when you think of Atletico Madrid, you think, the Dark Arts. The Dark Arts. We're going to bully you. Sula was like, you're going to bully me? That was him. Just all right. Next joke, please. So I'm just like, all right. He basically set the tone right from the get-go. I think our weakest link in defense was Pavard again. But the thing with Pavard is as well, obviously since his injury, he hasn't really looked the same. We all know that. We can all agree with that. We can all acknowledge that he didn't look that bad today, but he didn't necessarily look that great either today. There were a few moments he got into very good positions, but some of the crosses weren't that great from his perspective. So I just want to say that give Pavard some time. Obviously, Sarr came on. I thought Sarr didn't have a good game either, to be completely honest. So both our right backs, I felt like didn't have a great game, but I'm okay with that. I am okay with that because the way I look at it right now is just like this. If he has a bad game now, I'm okay with that. As long as once the important phases come up, once the important games, I mean, you could say this was an important game, granted, but once March, April rolls around and we're in the Champions League quarters or the Champions League, semis or whatnot, If he performs then, I'd be much happier for him, like, just to kind of find his form right now. Obviously, he just came back from injury, and we all got to understand there was no such thing as a proper preseason. So, like, he didn't really have the time to really get back into it. So he's just playing right now. Of course, training as well, but playing. That was the key thing here. So, from that perspective, I'm okay with him not having the best of games. It's absolutely A-okay to me. It's the same reason why, like, Alaba, I know, obviously, he's been massively criticized lately, but he had a fantastic game today. And I've already said that in the past, you know, I criticize players when they play bad. It's really that simple. But I felt like some people criticize Alaba specifically because of the whole contract situation, that he basically made himself an easy target. And I don't have an issue criticizing players when they're bad or praising them when they're good. But from my perspective, you gotta look at the performance and not like the outside factors. So that's the way I look at it. Like it's the same thing. I don't really care what the players do outside of on the pitch. You know, they could be going out and doing whatever. I wouldn't care. Like, what matters to me is that when they're on the pitch, they perform. They put 110% in. So that's the way I look at it. Now, in terms of midfield, I have to say, Kimmich, fantastic. Like, Kimmich's assist for Coman, absolutely brilliant. In the first half, Kimmich to Coman was like, I would say, the most played pairing, honestly. Every time Kimmich got the ball, he like crossed it over to Coman. Coman would get it. Coman would do his little things here and there. It was absolutely brilliant. And one of those obviously led to the first goal, which was absolutely brilliant. Kimmich winning the ball and then passing it straight to Coman. But then you look at our other two midfielders, because the thing with Kimmich is, like, he didn't really start that great on the first 10 minutes, but like, once he got into the game, the whole team got into the game. So it just shows you that Kimmich is, how key Kimmich is for the team, which you all obviously know already. But you look at Goretzka and Tolisso. Goretzka, obviously, fantastic goal, but like, very key, like all over the pitch, winning all the balls, and also interchanging with Tolisso at all times. Tolisso obviously playing as the number 10 today, but like Goretzka and him constantly switched out, which was great to see, because obviously Kimmich switches out all the time with Goretzka as well. So he essentially had Goretzka, Tolisso, and Kimmich constantly switch positions, with Kimmich predominantly being the deepest one, but like he would also sometimes play the number 10 for like a good stint of like 10 minutes or so and be like, all right, I'm playing at the number 10 right now, I'm creating more up front, coolio. And it's just like, all right, great to see. I like to see that. For me, fluidity is very key, because it just means that you're not predictable. And in football and in life, really, predictability is the enemy of progress. So, I mentioned Goretzka, Tolisso, I mentioned him already, but mamma mia, what a goal, bro! What a goal, bro! Like, absolutely fantastic. I don't think more needs to be said about that goal. Absolutely fantastic. Now, again, we played the game without Lewandowski. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have a bad game. He had actually a decent game. But, like, you know, he's known for scoring goals. And Müller is known for really assisting and scoring goals. Obviously, Müller then later on did get an assist. But, like, you look at that and you're like, most of our goals didn't really involve him. Most of our goals didn't really, and I'm happy for that. Do you know why I'm happy for that? Because it shows you that, like, even if those two have an off day, our squad is good enough to compete against the best teams in the world and still win. And that's what matters to me. Like, that even against the, you know, the better teams in world football, those two can have an off day. They didn't play bad. I need to keep stressing that Lewandowski or Müller didn't play bad. They just didn't contribute to the goals, besides obviously the last goal, I guess, if you want to call it that. And obviously that's predominantly their main role. So it just shows like those two can have in sort of like an off day, and still we look fuego. And from that perspective, I'm like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, all right. Absolutely fantastic. Now, I actually don't know who we play next, and I would have to look it up, but onwards, upwards, forwards. You all know my slogan: onwards, upwards, forwards, onwards, upwards, forwards, onwards, upwards, and forwards. That's essentially what we're doing, and that's exactly how we're going to be progressing. Now, none of the players have contracted COVID. That's a good thing. Obviously, after the news that Gnabry had it, you know, there was a bit of worry here and there, but nobody has contracted it. So we're now in this situation where our next game, I believe, is on Saturday, and there will obviously be more tests on and so on and so forth. But yeah, I am happy with how we played. I'm absolutely happy with how we played. I do think we need to tighten up a little bit more. Once the substitutions came in, we looked very, very bad in the last 10 minutes. Like, we really looked bad. And that shouldn't be the case. When you're winning 4-0, that shouldn't be the case. You should be seeing the game out. You should not be giving the opponent opportunities. And we did give them opportunities. And I don't want to see that. We should be controlling the game from minute 1 to 90. And it's the same situation as like last season in the Champions League. I don't know why it is in the Champions League. In the league, it's not the case. But in the Champions League, it is. Where like in the league, like we control the games for like minute 1 to minute 90. In the Champions League, we control them for like minute 10 to like minute 18. It's like, come on. Like we should be doing better here. Like we should not be settling for mediocrity. We should be aiming for perfection. I know perfection is an unattainable goal, but we should still be aiming for it. You know, all of us in our personal lives as well as the club in football. That's just the way it is. We should not be settling. We should be aiming to strive and prosper and do better. And that's exactly what we should be doing. But we're still not at that stage yet. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Flick's post-match interview will be, because I'm sure he can't be happy with that. I know we won 4-0, and that will be the headlines and so on and so forth. And obviously, oh yeah, Coman fantastic, Coman brilliant. But like, when you look at the performance, of course you can't shut down Atletico Madrid completely, but we should still be doing much better. Like, we should still be limiting their chances. We should still be limiting their opportunities. And from that perspective, we should be doing better. And that's my one criticism. My one big criticism. Besides that, though, fantastic game. Fantastic game. We won our first game of the Champions League group stage. Let's go onwards, upwards, and as always, forwards. I'll see you all on the next one, everyone. Until then, and just remember, we're the champions of Europe.